Hey, Spoop. What's everyone?
What's good? What's good?
What it do, boys?
I don't have Corona, I promise.
I think I need one. There we go.
God, fucking.
Need a
Nice
man.
Dead Heat shirt. Quality Dead Heat shirt.
Yay. Shout out Dead Heat.
Local bands. Shout out.
Yes.
How's everyone's week been?
I am dying, but it's almost over. After
yeah.
tomorrow.
9 days, right?
Tomorrow's number 9, and then I'm done. 9 in a row.
Permanently. They put you down after that. They Dr. Kevorkian you after you.
Yeah, you just said a word I don't know what that means.
He was a doctor that got he went to jail for doing assisted suicide in the States. This is a long time ago.
Oh shit.
People always
I mean that's something we've talked about, assisted suicide.
Oh yeah. Well, he was wrongfully in prison because he was putting like old people down that had terminal illnesses that wanted to die.
Oh yeah, basically. Obviously with consent. He wasn't just fucking murdering people.
Yeah. It would be different if he was just murdering people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a sad case.
We know who has the monopoly on murder.
Yeah, the state, of course. We've covered that too.
Yeah, state surely does. A monopoly on murder in this country.
Well, anyone have anything profound to say, or we wanna just jump into the show? Profound. Profundity.
I don't have a lot of big thoughts anymore.
Me either. I'm small-minded.
Small brain, smooth brain. That's how I operate.
Yep.
Are we ready to get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm opening it up today, everybody. So sorry.
This is recent news, so that's why it's
recent and kind of scary. So I'll read it out here first, then we can talk about it. This is from current President Donald J. Trump, Cheeto in the White House. Our embassy in Baghdad got hit Sunday by several rockets. 3 rockets failed to launch. Guess where they were from? Iran. Now we hear chatter of additional attacks against Americans in Iraq. Some friendly health advice to Iran. If one American is killed, I will hold Iran responsible. Think it over.
In fact, if no Americans are killed, we will hold Iran.
Yeah, we will still hold Iran.
We will still fuck them in the ass.
Yeah, so I thought I forgot it was Wednesday. Yeah, what's up, Leo? Welcome to the chat, bro. But yeah, this is it's very scary. We're 38 days away till President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated, but literally anything can happen in 38 days.
Yeah,
we can very easily go into a hot war with the country of Iran, literally overnight, because who knows where this could go. This was tweeted out 8 hours ago, and who knows.
Remember the most out of nowhere thing, and the thing that kicked off this year was Trump assassinating Qasem Soleimani. Yeah. So it's you're right. A hot war or some bullshit with Iran could pop off at any minute because Trump could just leave it in a shit situation, and Biden comes in and it looks like they're going to be hawkish too. So who knows?
With Mike Morell as your CIA pick, we can a hot war doesn't cease after the 38 days.
Yeah.
Or the possibility of a hot war doesn't cease after 38 days. But I thought I would bring that up because it's very recent, and I personally haven't seen anybody talk about it yet, which is a cool thing about our show.
I didn't hear about it.
We're early to a lot of shit.
We hit this before the big channels. Stuff we talk about on the show, I'll see a couple days later on Secular Talk or the Rational National. I'm like, oh shit, we already covered that.
Benefit of the 2 live shows a week.
Yeah, we hit you guys with the good stuff.
I think by the virtue of having something at the end of the weekend and something in the middle of the week too, we always have fresh news.
We pick up on the fresh stories. And then I just wanted to bring that up really quick, and we can go ahead and move on to another piece. Today's episode is going to be very centered around what's going on in the Middle East, as by the title of the show. So I have this piece here from The Guardian that I found, and it reads off from the title. Trump pardons Blackwater contractors jailed for massacre of Iraq civilians. Before I continue, for those who don't know what Blackwater is a private militia basically for hire mercenaries that go, anywhere you pay them to go, and they go do what you want, go do what you pay them to do. And Blackwater specifically has been used by the U.S. to do things like go into Venezuela and try to coup them. They've gone to the Middle East. And as we're going to talk about right now in the story, it ended up in the massacre of I believe 14 people and children included.
Keep in mind that Blackwater is headed by Eric Prince, who's just a straight up Christo fascist, and
also Betsy DeVos' sister. Brother. Betsy DeVos, our Secretary of Education, the woman who's responsible for the defunding of our education system, our public education system.
Charter school heiress.
Yeah.
So there, you see the military-industrial complex, this private contractor complex, as well as the charter school. It's all in a
shitty bloodline that really doesn't need to continue.
The private empire.
He just has a fascist name in itself. Eric Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so going ahead and continuing on in the article here, the headline part. 4 guards fired on unarmed crowd in Baghdad in 2007, killing 14 and sparking outrage over use of private security in war zones. Donald Trump has pardoned 4 security guards from the private military firm Blackwater, who were serving jail sentences for killing 14 civilians, including 2 children, in Baghdad in 2007, a massacre that sparked an international outcry over the use of mercenaries in war. The 4 guards, Paul Slough, Evan Liberty, that's like straight up like out of a fucking movie name, Dustin Hurd, and Nicholas Slatton, were part of an armored convoy that opened fire indiscriminately with machine guns, grenade launchers, and a sniper on a crowd of unarmed people in a square in the Iraqi capital. The Nassau Square massacre is one of the lowest episodes of the U.S.-led invasion and occupation of Iraq. Slough, Liberty, and Hurd were convicted on multiple charges of voluntary and attempted manslaughter in 2014, 7 years after it happened, albeit. So obviously they had no intention on doing any sort of swift justice with the murder of civilians, which is right in line with what the U.S. normally does all around the world, especially in the Middle East. While Slatton, who was the first to start the shooting, was convicted of first-degree murder. Slatton was sentenced to life and the others to 30 years in prison each. An initial prosecution was thrown out by a federal judge, sparking outrage in Iraq. But the then Vice President Joe Biden promised to pursue a fresh prosecution, which succeeded in 2015.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
To think that we give Brandon Bernard, someone who committed a crime when he was just a kid, a death sentence. He was just killed recently. But then these fucking assholes, the worst they're willing to give them is 30 years in jail for massacring fucking children. It's just crazy.
Yeah, right? On foreign soil, like.
Yeah. Further debunks just the both the death penalty and just how shitty our military-industrial complex is.
Yeah. Continuing on. At the sentencing, the U.S. Attorney's Office said in a statement, the sheer amount of unnecessary human loss and suffering attributable to the defendants' criminals' conduct on September 16th, 2007 is staggering. I really butchered the reading of that sentence. My bad. After news of the pardon emerged on Tuesday night, Brian Heberlig, a lawyer for one of the 4 pardoned Blackwater defendants, said, Paul Slough and his colleagues didn't deserve to spend 1 minute in prison. I am overwhelmed with the emotion at this fantastic news. 4 murderers responsible for the death of 2 children in their own sovereign nation that we invaded for natural resources. They did that, and this guy says they deserved not a single minute in prison, and he is overjoyed at the news. He's overwhelmed with emotion at this fantastic news. So you can already tell, what a piece of shit this guy is.
Yeah, and here's another thing too. Like, we were hearing people push and some rumors behind the, Trump camp that he might pardon either Julian Assange or Edward Snowden. But yeah, classic piece of shit. If we remember, not that long ago, he fucking pardoned Eddie Gallagher. You remember him? He was the guy that even his own soldiers in his unit called in and were like, "Hey, this guy's a fucking lunatic."
No, yeah, exactly.
He killed they had a prisoner that they had, and he killed him like a kid. And he took pictures of his body and shit.
Yeah, no, like legitimate, like.
So not to say it's fool's errand. Like we should always, try to push Trump to free these, Assange, etc. But fucking Trump's no fucking fighter against the deep state. This guy serves all their fucking interests.
Yeah, and like something we just talked about on the other show, like he didn't pardon Brandon Bernard, who was sadly executed, and his life was taken because he was on death row. But 4 people, and that he was he was just an accomplice to a burglary or a robbery or whatever. These people killed 2 children and pardoned. But a guy who was an accomplice to a robbery when he was a teenager, on some peanut butter breath right now. That sounds fire, bro. But yeah, it's disgusting, and obviously, this is right in line with what we expect from Trump.
Yeah.
And then
he's just fucking kowtows to the deep state. Just takes it in the ass. He's never been against. He's always been a fake populist. He's always been, an establishment goon that just masquerades as something else.
Yeah. And then continuing on here. The pardons are one of several the U.S. president has granted to American service personnel and contractors accused or convicted of crimes against non-combatants and civilians in war zones. In November last year, he pardoned a former U.S. Army commando who was set to stand trial over the killing of a suspected Afghan bondmaker and a former Army lieutenant convicted of murder for ordering his men to fire at 3 Afghans. And then just right here, you have a picture of the guys who just got pardoned. Complete chud energy. Like, what almost like a fat Ben Shapiro. Then you have default Christo fascist NPC guy, and then this guy just has an insanely big head for no reason.
We got Megamind over here.
Yeah, we got Megamind. He looks like this. He looks like a strung out. You know who the psych substance guy is? He looks like a strung out.
Wait, look at his head though. He has a straight up dent in his head.
No, and it's bulbous as shit.
Is that a shadow or is it a dent? I really can't tell.
He has gamer head.
I hope that's a shadow.
The second guy though looks like if you punched him, it would shatter your hand. He has a very square jaw.
Yeah. The fucking Evan Liberty guy, yeah.
Yeah, that guy looks nuts.
And then he just has that fucking
He looks like a bald eagle.
That chud, the chud fucking slicked back, gelled hair.
And then the last guy is just a BuzzFeed writer.
He looks like a BuzzFeed writer, but also a Nazi. So a BuzzFeed writer.
Yeah, so BuzzFeed.
And then we're almost done with this one, so I'm just going to continue on here. Supporters of former contractors at Blackwater Worldwide have lobbied for the pardons, arguing that the men have been excessively punished. Again, for the murder of multiple civilians, including 2 children, excessively punished. Prosecutors asserted that the heavily armored Raven 23 Blackwater convoy launched an unprovoked attack using sniper fire, machine guns, and grenade launchers. Defense lawyers argued that the client returned fire after being ambushed by Iraqi insurgents. The U.S. government said in a memorandum filed after the sentencing, none of the victims were insurgents or posed any threat to the Raven 23 convoy.
So even they're saying
just
that they fucked up.
Yeah, just absolutely no reason. The U.S. government said, I just read that. Also quoted in the memorandum was David Boslego, a retired U.S. Army colonel who said the massacre was a grossly excessive use of force and grossly inappropriate for an entity whose only job was to provide personnel protection to somebody in an armored vehicle. So yeah, retired U.S. Army guy, he's like, oh no, yeah, these guys are fucking insane. And
yeah, the U.S. government's own memorandum is saying that they fucked up.
Boslego also said the attack had a negative effect on our mission of imperialism, so fuck that guy, but an adverse effect. They made a relationship with the Iraqis in general more strained. FBI investigators who visited the scene in the following days described it as the My Lai massacre of Iraq, reference to an infamous slaughter of civilian villagers by U.S. troops during the Vietnam War, in which only one soldier was convicted. Blackwater was founded by Eric Prince, whose sister, Betsy DeVos, was appointed as Trump's education secretary, and we just brought up. After the convictions, Blackwater, which changed its name to Chi, Xe, Chi, and then
Jinping? No.
then Academi, after being sold, said it was relieved that the justice system had completed its investigation into a tragedy that occurred at Nassau Square in 2007, that any wrongdoing that was carried out had been addressed by our courts. The security industry has evolved drastically since those events, and under the new direction of new ownership and leadership, Academi has invested heavily in compliance and ethics programs, training for our employees, and preventative measures.
I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Ethical killing?
Yeah, we're gonna invest in ethical private military operations in countries we shouldn't.
No, bro. Listen, bro. See, we're gonna come into your country and kill people, but we're gonna be ethical about it. We're gonna make sure that we feed them before we kill them, and we're gonna make sure we give them a proper burial.
We're gonna clean up the streets.
We don't have to. We don't have to pull the tweet up, but that one specific example from the Nassau Square that this happened at. The Ali Kinani, I believe his name was. He was 9 years old. He was killed in front of his father, 9 years old, and had, it's fucking disgusting. Yeah. The tweet thread itself, maybe we'll link it in the post YouTube show, but it's like, it goes into further detail, and it's just disgusting. Like, there's no way, shape, or form that they were threatened. They just lit up this square basically and killed children in front of their family.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then I just have I have one last thing to read here, and it's just gonna name off the victims. I'm probably gonna butcher them, but yeah.
But it's still good we say them, yeah.
Yeah, the 14 victims killed by Blackwater guards on trial were listed as Ahmed Hatem Ahmed al-Rubiai, Mahasin Mohsen Karum al-Khazali, Osama Fadhil Abbas, Ali Mohammed Hafed Abdul Razak, Mohammed Abbas Mahmoud, Qasim Mohammed Abbas Mahmoud.
That was the first guy's name. No, all of that. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Saadi Ali Abbas Al-Kark, Mushtaq Karim Abd Al-Razak. Oh, fuck, dude. I'm butchering the shit out of these names. I'm so sorry. Ganya Hassan Ali, Ibrahim Abdid Ayash, Hamoud Saeed Abtan, Uday Ismail Ibrahim, Mahdi Sahib Nasir, and Ali Khalil Abdul Hussein. Fuck.
Yeah, multiple children.
Yeah.
And they're all of them civilians. In a country we shouldn't be in the first place.
And especially private military. Especially.
Christo-fascists. That's a whole other thing we've touched on, but it's in some of these guys' names. That one guy's last name is Liberty. These guys are just Christian goons that get to post military, post being in the U.S. military, get to go back and be even more unaccountable in these groups like Blackwater.
Yeah, it's a revolving door for psychopaths who want to kill people.
Yeah, straight up. And not just psychopaths, but psychopaths with maybe not a coherent ideology, but one that they all coalesce around and has for sure captured our fucking. You just look at the Republican Party.
Christianity. Christianity rules. Islam.
Amy Coney Barrett, that's a huge win for that ideology of those guys.
Yeah.
So not good.
Yeah, the issue is the Republican Party is moving farther right, but the Democratic Party continues to stay just normal Republican, and there's no
Republican light, right?
Yeah, and there's no coalescing of the left in any powerful facet. So yeah, it's getting Getting tough.
Isn't that kind of funny that the Democrats are like leaning a lot more right nowadays?
Always.
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but definitely post Reagan. Like Reagan was so fucking nuts and drove the Republican Party so right that the Democrats just became Republican light, and then Bill Clinton solidified that and just neoliberal king.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Reagan is that he was the perfect vehicle to sell the same total giveaway to the rich that tanked the economy before.
Yep.
That he just put the bright and happy face on it, and the respectable face.
Yeah. Yeah, and
being an actor.
Yeah, he was in a lot of ways. There was multiple Trumps. Like there was Andrew Johnson's like an old Trump, old president, but in a lot of ways he was very Trumpian too.
Yeah.
Just mask off but mask on at the same time.
I don't remember.
I do not recall killing people. So do we want to move to the next thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this also has to deal with Afghanistan as well, and just our meddling there. This whole show's premise is the Middle East and just the disgusting shit both the administration now, before, and upcoming with Biden too, is just ravaging the Middle East. And just like the last example with Blackwater, which is a private group that goes in, we also have the CIA, the state. They're funding death squads in Afghanistan. This is a piece in The Intercept, and we're actually going to talk later because I want to criticize The Intercept too, because they actually ran a lot of shit pieces this week, and we'll get into it later, because they're basically just parroting the next Russiagate again. And by that I mean they're pushing this narrative that Russia somehow hacked the Pentagon, and somehow that's super detrimental and is a problem that we need to focus on, rather than the thousands of people that are dying a day of coronavirus and the fact that we can't respond to our own problems.
Yeah.
Because I remember the headlines on that were, before they really mentioned any of the details, they said this was like one of the biggest threats to our national security.
They called it the Pearl Harbor, which is a ridiculous claim, because Pearl Harbor, 2,000 some people died. But that's how many people are dying a day of COVID.
Yeah, like a minute later, then they said that no classified information was tampered with in any way.
Yeah, exactly.
So like they couldn't even do a good job at hacking us. I thought Russia was on our side. They were going to expose our government because they're never going to tell us what they're doing. So we got to rely on other governments to tell us what our government's doing. And they can't even do that.
But I have a piece later that will cover that. I just wanted to say that so that, we have a critical lens on The Intercept here, but nevertheless, this story is really important. If we could skip down to past the first picture there where it says the 12 boys killed, Carlos. And then I'll go ahead and read from there. It says the 12 boys killed in the madrasa at Omar Khalil that winter night were among scores of civilians massacred during at least 10 previously undocumented night raids in the central Afghan province of Wardak. Beginning in December 2018 and continuing for at least a year, Afghan operatives believed to belong to an elite CIA-trained paramilitary unit known as O1, in partnership with U.S. Special Operations Forces and Air Power, unleashed a campaign of terror against civilians. This story is based on interviews with more than 50 Wardak residents, including 20 survivors and first-hand witnesses and 29 victims, relatives, and local residents who witnessed the aftermath of the killings within hours of when they occurred. Some of those accounts were corroborated by local officials, analysts, and community representatives. The 10 raids by the CIA resulted in the deaths of at least 51 civilians, according to The Intercept's reporting. In most cases, men and boys as young as 8, few of whom appear to have had any formal relationship with the Taliban, was summarily executed. Some died alone, others alongside friends and family. Several raids were accompanied by airstrikes, or in at least one instance, the detonation of hand-laid explosives targeting structures known to be occupied by civilians. The Intercept has changed the names of those killed in the raids and of the survivors, witnesses, and victims' relatives we spoke to shield them from further harm. Some requested anonymity because they feared retribution from pro-government forces, while others worried that the Taliban would punish them for speaking candidly to a journalist. Residents from 4 districts in Wardak, Nurk, Chak, Sayyabadad, and Dermadad spoke of a string of massacres, executions, mutilation, forced disappearances, attacks on medical facilities, and airstrikes targeting structures known to house civilians. The victims, according to these residents, were rarely Taliban, yet the Afghan unit and its American masters have been publicly held accountable by either the never been publicly held accountable by either the Afghan or U.S. governments. So it's gross. The CIA is basically killing children, boys as young as 8 and around 8. That they're like, hey, we don't want them to grow up and join the Taliban because we've destroyed their country, and the only outlet is to join like one of these radical groups or something.
I mean, yeah.
So they're just massacring the youth there now. It's fucking gross. And there's no way that this isn't purposeful and done, in coordination, because the CIA, it's not just a military operation. The CIA is going after fucking children. It's just gross.
Yeah, that's since the beginning of the CIA. That's been literally their whole shtick. Since the CIA's been created, since the fucking they no matter what happens, when anything somewhat positive tries to happen in the country, the CIA goes in, either directly or indirectly, and then they fund these death squads. They go in themselves. We invade, and they don't care who they kill. All that matters is stomping down who they believe is the opposition.
Yeah. So just for the listeners, just keep in your head right now, in your mind, how much fucking money we're not spending on healthcare, on helping people here, and actually transforming our country, but rather both via the CIA and via fucking groups like Blackwater, etc. We're massacring children overseas with this money, and we don't really have anything talking about it tonight, but now we have Trump has vetoed the COVID stimulus, but now that we've got to look at some of the pages, we know that really it's just another giant bailout for the rich, and gives money like $500 million to Israel, $30 million to CIA coups in Venezuela, etc.
The list goes on and on and on. And
there's a lot of dumb shit that our money goes to.
We spent over, we spent over $2 trillion in just Afghanistan alone, and that was at least the number in 2017. So yeah, we wasted over $2 trillion in Afghanistan. Probably we're close to the same in Iraq, and we have nothing to show for it. We have nothing here in our own country. We have a crumbling infrastructure that gets a grade of D-. We have literally nothing to show for all this money that we waste fucking up other countries.
But look at the top of the show. We can have a hot war with Iran, and look at that $500 million we gave to Israel. That looks like something we might. That's a geopolitical thing to put on Iran.
Exactly.
More missiles.
Or also wasting fucking money on the Space Force in this COVID stimulus.
They give like $1 billion to the Space Force. $2 billion. $1 billion to the wall.
$4 million for the Navy to buy weapons. They gave $700 million to Sudan.
$700 million gee.
And they also, if you stream something, if you stream things illegally, that's now can be considered a felony. That was also in the stimulus bill, so we can only imagine that's going to come right back when they put the other one up on the Senate floor.
Right.
But yeah, they're wasting all.
But yet we can't get a Medicare for all vote on the floor, but yet we can have all this stupid shit happen.
Wait, was that streaming thing really in this bill?
No. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, the one Trump vetoed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, I thought I'd never say it, but thank you, Donald Trump. I hate him. I hate just about everything he does, but maybe this isn't so horrible. People need relief, and I get it, but I mean, it goes to show the kind of shit that they put in these bills and how ridiculous it is. Like, when people need money, but they're like, all right, this is the perfect chance to get all the shit we really wanted.
Exactly, like giving $4 billion to the Navy for weapons, or
because
giving $3 billion to the Space Force. Like, what
because
the fuck?
it's shown as like a desperate bill that like must get through. It's urgent. The people need help, but we're giving them crumbs. In reality, to what we're really spending this money on.
Before we go to break, let's talk about that more though. Trump with that veto is, he got to flex like, hey, I want to give you guys more money. That's how fickle and garbage the Democrats are. That they managed to get rolled over by the Republicans, let some shit go. They enabled Donald Trump to be able to use that line.
No, exactly.
I'm giving you more money.
What he's doing literally is just setting up his 2024 run. I've been saying this since the what's it called? Since Joe Biden got nominated for the Democratic Party pick. All Trump's doing is just focusing on his next run. And that's what he's been doing since he got elected, just campaigning, because that's all he cares about. And he's smart about it. He knows that he can strike down this bill, probably get him to give us more money, and we're gonna think, oh, that's Trump money. He gave us this money. The American people are gonna make that connection. Though, oh, he shot down this shitty Democrat bill to give more Trump money. Republican give money, Republican good.
Yeah, exactly.
Bernie
was the first one. Credit to Bernie. As soon as Trump said that, Bernie was pretty much the first one to be like, all right, let's do it. Let's give everyone $2,000. Let's go.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a fuck who it's. And then you have Klobuchar, though, going on, I think it was MSNBC, saying that $2,000 to every American is an attack on Americans.
Exactly. And because all Klobuchar wants to do is be anti-Trump. She doesn't care what it is. Trump could literally say, let's give everybody health care, and Amy Klobuchar would be like, oh, I don't know. You see, Trump bad. How would your hair fare?
I don't like the way he's going to go about doing it, and so it's wrong, obviously.
But she's chilling to give more money to the CIA to kill children in Afghanistan. Because this intercept piece.
Because she doesn't care about us. All she cares about is the Cold War.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Yep. She wants to get more money and get higher and higher in the chain of the DNC machine.
Tried to become president.
And posture. Exactly. Become president, name recognition, get fancy cabinet positions, legacy building, pretty much. It's that's all people like Klobuchar are doing. And
she's
it's obviously
I can't
Donald
stand
Trump.
her. It's
100. Yeah, cloud beats.
She used that recycled line in all those debates. It drove me nuts.
No, never forget she was endorsed by the New York Times
and like 30 million other people.
Well, New York Times is a big endorsement for the liberal institutions in an election.
Oh yeah, and they decided to split their endorsement with 2 or 3 people.
They split it with her and Elizabeth Warren, which neither of those were the correct options. So good job.
And also for all my identity politics liberals, notice who they didn't give it to: Kamala. They don't like black women. They only endorse the white women.
They don't like Jews either. They didn't give it to Bernie.
Fuck the New York Times. Come on. Bad optics. It's bad optics.
You know what? I almost would redeem the New York Times just for that one interview they have with Pete Buttigieg where they nail him for fixing bread prices.
Yeah.
This shit is so legendary. Look that up if you've never watched that.
And that's also our new guy for fucking transportation.
Guy that fixes bread prices for
fixing
McKinsey.
bread lines, fires black people from high positions of power because they're investigating racism. That's Pete Buttigieg, and
McKinsey and Co. is deep in bed with the CIA and groups like Blackwater and shit too. So now he's done shit like this
from head to toe, garbage human.
Right. We got anything else we want to go on the break?
Nothing saucy. I think we should. I think we can go to our break. So we're gonna be back after this song. Please stick around. If you're new and you kind of enjoyed what you heard us talk about, go ahead and drop a follow. We're here every Wednesday and Sunday. If you're watching without an account, please create an account and drop a follow. It means a lot. And before I go again, I like to talk about it because it's fun to talk about. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch, you give us your free Prime subscription. It costs you literally no extra money. And all it does is help us in the statistics and analytics of Twitch. It makes us look fancier, puts us higher on those fucking leaderboards, and helps the stream grow as well as the community. So we'll be back after this break, and think about following while you listen to this song from a local artist, Omega Nova. Check him out. We'll be back.
Stay grinding. herb on the herb, and the Tijuana brass for that ass. Oh man, I got a bite. Oh no, it's one of those Peruvian mosquitoes. My skin looks bumpy and lumpy. Headbone, yeah, that's me.
Coasting, I'm boasting that I'm ghosting, staring at the ocean, going through the motions, work, then sleep, then work, then sleep, then back home, and in between a healthy dose of Camel-made tobacco. That's facts though, cause my life it always seemed irrelevant. I'm not intelligent, so to my health I say the hell with it. My mind's fucked, so I made my tomb to match it. You find it tragic, but I just need the roots to crack it. The surface, my purpose, so why am I feeling worthless? Staying at the churches and scrolling through my curses. I'm hurt, bitch. Can't you see these inner scars? But no, you left me to die in maze with minotaurs. So these feelings are ripped and tattered and torn to shreds. Sleeping on his free couch, I can't afford no bed. Ignore this head, he's claiming the statements that preposterous. Threw all my panties down the well and never even got the wish. Never even got the wish. I ain't never even got that wish. Yo. Check, yo. Take it to my crack, and then I go with polish it. I couldn't finish college cause I ran into that wall again. We all pretend we always see the deepest in astonishment. I'm sitting on this ottoman just hoping I'm not falling into deep depression cause I don't need that. Pouring so loud and I just want some honest feedback. So please act according to plan, not if you understand. I'm just a broken man too proud to take a helping hand. I hope to take a stand and span throughout the vacant lands. My time is ancient sands running through an hourglass. And I was past, still feeling like a bag of trash. I pumped the gas to the Acura, it ain't that fast. Don't want another crash, just want a chance to succeed and extend the other branch to the fans. Make a few tracks that smack inside a jam, and maybe take a year off and cool it in Japan.
I thought it was go time already, man. I was getting tight already. I didn't know we were recording already. No, sorry. Okay. So just go. Alright. Shout out to Moth Moses, man. Moth Moses would be like a ride like a riding a camel. I just want him to know, there's not just 2 camels in that desert. There's 3. There's a third more quiet camel. But he's there. And his name's Moth Moses.
And his name's Moth Moses. We're back.
What's good, y'all?
Shout out Omega Nova.
Yeah, GOAT.
Yes.
Literally the best.
Legend of the city.
It's true. Probably my favorite local artist. Other than like maybe Madlib, but Madlib's on another plane. Yeah, I think,
he's transcended.
Yeah. Legend in the universal sense. You guys want to just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's hop right into it.
Yeah. This is less Middle East, but I think it's more just a critique of we always got to shit on the Democrats.
And we always got to shit on Joseph Robinette Biden. Yeah.
We do what the mainstream media actually claims they do. They're like, oh, we cover both sides. But the reality is they cover both sides. They let like arguments that don't need to happen. They're like, hey, we need both sides of a climate change argument.
Oh yeah, like all the old school climate change debates.
Yeah.
We're CNN. We like to make sure everybody's voice is heard. So we're gonna have a debate about climate change.
Here we have renowned climate scientists, and here we have garbage
Alex
Joe.
Jones.
Yeah. Just, God bless.
You see, there's this clean coal, right? It's so clean. They take it out of the ground. They don't even have to clean it. Usually, you need scrubbers.
We talk about both sides of the United Corporations of America, the Republicans and the Democrats.
Of course, so, it's important. It's important to criticize everybody, even people who you may agree with.
Of course, yeah. We even criticize the Progressive Caucus, of course. That we have going, the squad.
I regularly criticize Bernie Sanders as much as I love the guy, and I was even having a conversation at work with some of my coworkers about like some of the shitty things on Bernie's record, like Sesta Fosta and Yugoslavia. Like, yeah, it's important to have like an understanding of people you support and make sure you can disagree and agree.
Yeah, well, the big thing in understanding that is not like Bernie's some shill, but to understand that the power is in building working class movements and pushing politicians.
No, yeah, of course.
They're weak and fickle right now, and they're just getting rolled over. And even Bernie will vote for the CARES Act, massive upward transfer of wealth.
Yeah.
Just because it gets some concessions for people to survive on.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's hop right in. We have this WAPO piece. WAPO, Jimmy WAPO.
Got that WAP.
Alrighty, reading from the top.
Bezos Post.
Democracy dies in darkness.
And it is dark.
Biden says he'll reverse Trump immigration policies, but wants guardrails first. So something we're talking about on election night. Everything Biden ever said or ever promised, don't have your hopes up for it. And if you do have your hopes up for it, expect it to happen right before his term ends. Expect him to do some shit to boost his name recognition right before he's not president anymore. Just like Obama did. Obama did a bunch of shitty things and expunged a bunch of non-violent drug offenders right before he got out of office to, boost his name up. So expect the same exact thing.
Yeah, everything you heard the Biden say he supports, don't expect him to fight for it.
Yeah. He supports
expect him to compromise.
Especially since he's had to make no concessions for us to even really get him on the record for a lot of those positions.
No, he's had to make. We
just gave him our votes.
The most thing we can hold him to is a $15 minimum wage, and even that he's used weird language with it.
Yeah, and that seems like it's just going to be a state by state accomplishment again, rather than a federal move. I still think the federal minimum wage is going to stay low.
Yeah. Reading off from the top here, President-elect Joe Biden said Tuesday he will keep his pledge to roll back the Trump administration's restrictive asylum policies, but at a slower pace than he initially promised, to avoid winding up with 2 million people on our border. Ooh, scary. Biden said immigration is one of the urgent matters he will tackle starting next month as the nation emerges from one of the toughest years we've ever faced. Ticking off a list that included the coronavirus, the economy, racial justice issues, and historic and punishing wildfires and storms. Coming from the same guy who called Black Lives Matter looters and rioters, you got to stop the looting and rioting. The guy who says he believes in science but is against banning fracking. The guy who pushed for the crime bill, which put black and brown bodies behind bars, making them work for slave labor, not letting them go out into the economy and stimulate it by having jobs.
One of the key guys in the crime bill, one of the main dudes.
So I mean, this guy absolutely is just bullshitting you. Biden had promised to end on day one a program that requires tens of thousands of asylum seekers, mainly from Central America, to await their U.S. immigration hearings in Mexico. But the president-elect said creating a system to process thousands of asylum seekers will take months because the government needs funding to put staffers such as asylum judges in place. The timeline is to do
Nazi tribunal judges.
Yeah. You will go back to your country and die.
Yeah. You eat shit and die poor.
Gavel. Oh, sorry, too brown.
The colored card.
Yeah, the family.
That's what they're doing.
The timeline is to do it so that we, in fact, make it better, not worse. Biden said, speaking from his home state of Delaware, delivering remarks ahead of the holiday. I will do what I said. It's going to take not day one. It's going to take probably the next 6 months to put that in place. But you gotta imagine it like Joe Biden, where he's like, he gets really upset at the beginning of his sentence. I'll do what I said, Jack. It's not going to take day one. It's 6 months.
Listen, I'm the white. You're not black.
Jack, you're too brown.
I like to listen to the records.
Yeah, like
the kids, the record player. Let them hear words.
I love when kids sit on my lap.
Damn, Dad could sure drive a car. That's what we should have known he was gonna win the presidency.
When he said Inshallah, and when he had the the Dairy Queen picture.
Yeah, when he said the one true God's name, there was no stopping him.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Dairy Queen picture on a shirt?
Halal Joe Biden. No haramen. I hope it's on a shirt. I'll put him on a shirt.
God.
Advocates for immigrants hope Biden will terminate the return to Mexico policy known as a migrant protection protocols before the Supreme Court is expected to take it up next year. Biden said he is already working with authorities in Mexico and other Latin American nations, as well with U.S.-based nonprofit groups, to carve a path on immigration policy. So letting the private sector come in and decide who gets what, more neoliberal bullshit. He said,
the conditions that created ICE, basically.
Yep.
And other private groups.
And Biden has to say for it is, trust me. Trust the crime bill guy, yeah. Biden said he was not dragging his feet, but setting up the guardrails to find a solution to the immigration issue instead of creating a crisis that complicates what we're trying to do. Biden echoed what top advisors said this week to manage expectations about the pace of the new administration as they prepare to take office. Speaking to reporters on a conference call earlier Tuesday, several members of the Biden transition team said the incoming administration would need time to undo damage to the U.S. immigration system and border enforcement policies that have severely limited the ability of asylum seekers to qualify for humanitarian protection. And this is coming from the guy who served under the deport king. Like, this guy,
Deporter-in-chief.
He helped put in place some of these policies that are fucking over people coming in for asylum. He's like,
increase funding for ICE, increase funding for Homeland Security.
To undo the damage that this nation caused, you need to not have somebody who helped create the issue. You needed somebody like a Bernie Sanders, not a Joe Biden.
Not just that, but like they're not even giving. I mean, you guys are reading the same thing as me, right? They're basically just saying, "Fuck you, we're not doing shit." Like,
exactly. It's
what you have now. You're getting the same thing. We're gonna be a little nicer about it, but we're not gonna change anything.
Of course not. That's what this whole piece is. That's what this whole piece is about. Is Joe Biden saying, "I know I said words."
Kids in cages. That was yesterday news.
No, yeah, let's talk. No, talk. Dude, I have this Dairy Queen cone. Let's not talk about the kids in cages. Focus on the ice cream. I'm a fun, lovable old man who likes to drive cars.
It's brunch time.
He's basically don't make fun. Just saying that. Yeah, it's like we're not stupid enough to let nobody in here. Like, we want people, but I mean, what are we gonna do about it? I mean, you'll see. Trust me.
Yeah, you'll see after I'm done being president.
I don't really gotta say anything specific.
Of course. The transition officials echoed statements made by Susan Rice, Biden's incoming domestic policy advisor, and Jake Sullivan, his pick for national security advisor, in an interview published Monday with the Spanish wire service EFE, urging patience with their immigration agenda. Rice told EFE that Biden will use executive authority to implement his immigration agenda, but her cautious statements appeared to reflect the incoming administration's worries that easing up too quickly on President Trump's enforcement system could trigger a new migration surge at the border. Yeah, exactly.
It's not saying anything.
No. See, we're gonna heal the soul of the nation, and that means no brown people coming in.
How does that not sound fucking racist? Could trigger a new migration surge at the border? What do you mean?
Yeah, what is that?
You mean the migration surge we caused for these countries that we fucking cooed and destroyed their countries?
And the one that's been on a decline for decades now, and that has no has no negative effects on what's going on in the country whatsoever. Any sort of migration surge has literally zero negative effect. Only helps stimulate both economies of our nation and the nation of origin. Like what?
We've covered that this response only just kills more people.
Yes,
that's all it does. It's just more. It just makes it more dangerous.
Of course,
it's fucking And don't forget, Susan Rice is not only like a super war hawk, but she's taking big money from fracking companies also. So just outright liar. So they're just fucking jerking off in front of your face here. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
they're just we're just gonna do the same shit. We gotta do it later. We might trigger a bunch of fucking brown people coming here.
Yeah, I'll only read this last little part here because it just goes on. Migrants and asylum seekers absolutely should not believe those in the region. Migrants and asylum seekers absolutely should not believe those in the region peddling the idea that the border will suddenly be fully open to the process to process everyone on day one. It will not, Rice said, according to the translation of the interview transcript. Immigrant advocacy groups and others who deplored Trump's policies have pushed Biden to embrace wholesale change to a U.S. enforcement model designed to deter illegal migration through a system of detention and deportation. So yeah, just absolute nothingness. We're not going to see anything new, and likely not going to see anything undone, because Biden's probably just going to continue to push it back, and oh, we can't do it yet. Oh, we have this problem. Oh, this problem. And yeah, like we just talked about the language, like they're just being openly old white person racist about this. They're like, oh, Mexicans and people from Latin and Central America are cool, but we don't want to do anything policy-wise too big, or they might all come over.
It's definitely moderate conservative racist. It sounds like how my grandparents would say it.
Yeah, like just old white person racist. Like they're like, oh no, I don't have any problem with the Mexicans, but I don't want them all to come here.
We don't want to trigger them coming here.
Exactly.
Which is like, oh yeah, that's a real educated point of view. Yeah. Good job. You've really thought about this.
Yeah, well, that's really all I wanted to read from that one. Yeah, and anything that comes from WAPO talking about Biden's obviously going to be pompous bullshit, but it's important to see how...
Yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, it's just important to see how they're talking about really important issues that are affecting millions of people's lives, and how they lie about it, how they kind of snowball
it in here. Yeah,
the fluff piece, making it all seem like Trump's fault, even though Biden was just the vice president right before Trump and had a bunch to do with all the immigration policies that we currently have in place, even the ones that predate Trump, the ones that Trump expanded on. Like this,
that false two-sidedness we were talking about earlier is kind of in here, where they're like, hey, Biden's doing a bad thing, but hey, we might trigger. They're saying this and this, and this and this.
They're showing their true colors.
Yeah, exactly. It's all bullshitting, and they all use the same techniques.
Well, think about like Bernie Sanders. Even though he didn't win the presidency, think about all the policies he at least put forward. Like, these people don't do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows how they're not really in the ideological seat when it comes to electing them to these positions. They're just outsourcing all their stuff. And that's one of the things Trump really exposed, is how much you can really outsource your presidency. And we all understand that you have to some degree. Like, you got to bring in people who know what they're talking about and understand the world. But it's almost like you don't even got to do anything. You don't have to have a real coherent ideology of, like, how to run the show.
I mean, yeah, literally look at Donald Trump. But also, like, what you were saying earlier, look back at what was one of the big things that they were trying to shit on Bernie about. Oh, Josh with the Prime sub. Appreciate you. It just popped up in chat before the notification. Josh, thank you for the Prime, brother.
Ronald Reagan get punched, everybody?
Ronald Reagan just got clocked. But yeah, continuing on. What was one of the big criticisms that the liberal mainstream media tried to make fun of Bernie about? How he had all of these, he put out all these policies, and none of them, he put out all these policies, and none of them got passed. And they were like, "Oh, well, you've been in a position of power for how long, and how many bills have you gotten passed?"
Right.
It's like, "Oh, you've only gotten this many passed, but look at all these ones that you put out. That must mean you suck at it." But it's like, just as Carl was saying, like, Bernie at least like has a lot of knowledge and does all this stuff on his own, whereas other people like Trump just outsource everything to people, whatever. And they said all they did was just make fun of people who have a lot of policy. And Jack Tran, Hochi,
with this
COVID patient 0. Thank you for the Prime sub. We appreciate it. That's 2 Prime subs. If somebody wants to throw in another one who's watching, throw in another one. Prime sub, completely free if you have your Amazon Prime link to your Twitch.
Yeah, solidarity with our friend Jack. He has the Rona. Wish him good health in the chat if you can type.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's a dangerous world. People are just getting it, It's bad.
It's a cold world we live in.
It's a cold world.
Future meme?
Oh, God.
Yeah, my cousin, if you remember, I didn't mention it on the show, but the church that they go to, their pastor died from COVID. He got COVID and seems to be recovering. his wife now just got COVID, and I guess they just they put her into like an induced coma.
Jeez.
So, and this
those
is
churches are just super spreader fucking places, man.
Yeah.
Well, this is after he said that he thought this like COVID situation was being all blown out of proportion. As it wasn't really that big of a deal. But
yeah, and
how can you say that like after the pastor to your church just
dies? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've had 2 cousins now, I think, at least, that have had it, and then one of them died. Like I told you guys about that. It was like earlier this year. Yeah. It's nuts. Like it's obvious. Like for anybody watching, it's obviously a very real thing. We're still learning about it. A vaccine is, slowly rolling out, obviously, to those who the society deems important first, and we really don't know how it's going to happen cost-wise later in the future.
They have said, like, they've shown, like, fucking healthcare CEOs are going to get it. They're considered part of, like, the healthcare rollout for frontline healthcare workers.
CEOs.
And then right after them, still before, like, teachers and us, like, even grocery store workers, etc., the financial sector gets it first.
Yep.
Wall Street workers get it.
Of course.
So,
like I said, who's our society deems important.
Right. We've seen all these governors that lied to us about thinking that it was fake. They're getting vaccinations on live TV.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, all those people that were peddling lies about how COVID's fake are first ones to get the vaccine because they know it's fucking real, but they just want they want to play to their team.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck.
They're lunatics. We're in fucking decline, dude. We live in a hell state.
Capitalism has just gotten so bad now that we just have the straight up snake oil sales out in the
everywhere.
public square.
All different kinds of flavors too. Both sides, you got all kinds of sales.
What was that? What was this, like Silver Solution or something that they were selling like at the start of the pandemic? Some like religious group saying that it would protect you from COVID.
Yeah.
I wonder if Alex Jones sold us something.
No, I think Alex Jones. I think he did like a soap or something. Like I think he had like he was like this. Use this body wash. I mean, I don't shower that often, but I got all the shungite. But if you use this bar soap, you won't get COVID.
God,
something fucking nutty like that. I want to say it was like maybe like a sugar pill or something.
Jeez. Well, yeah. To re-harp on something before we move on, like I think it is important we cover the perspective of some of these mainstream outlets like Washington Post because it just reveals how shit they are and just how they grandstand and they're just operatives. They're basically just straight up operatives of the fucking establishment. They are. They're not basically. They are.
Yeah. Whatever they say to say, they'd say it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how insane it is, and they of course exist under the guise of putting truth to power and whatnot. That has to do. And sorry. And I was like, just as I said before, you read the Washington Post article. Their whole like slogan is "Democracy dies in darkness." What the darkest thing you can do in journalism is not put truth to power and just be their fucking little lapdog and say whatever they want you to say. Be their puppet.
Be owned by Jeff Bezos.
What's their best excuse for it too? Like to get quote unquote access to these people?
Yeah.
Like, really? That's what you care about?
That is what they care about though. That access is the fact that they just straight up act like a wing of the State Department. They enjoy that. They think they're basically like CIA / like op. That's why you see all the time like State Department assets go under journalistic cover because it's just same mindset. These people are fucking careerist garbage.
Yeah. And
this next article, it extends to that, and this is Intercept again, and we'll shit on the Intercept piece in the following video. But this is Jordan Chariton, who he does Status Coup. I think we've covered him before too. They do good stuff. Check them out.
Sheridan's awesome.
Is one of the members, Jen, is like really sick with COVID and is like not very good. So they do good work. Check them out. But relating to the DNC, back in the beginning before the pandemic, in the Iowa caucus, we had the Shadow app where Pete Buttigieg fucking came in and tried to swoop the Iowa caucus. Did. And here we have, it says Investigator, DNC was, quote, directly involved, unquote, in Iowa caucus app development, countering DNC denial. In a closed session, Iowa State Democrats meeting, members pushed for answers on the DNC role in the caucus debacle. Once again, this is by Jordan Cheriton. The Democratic National Committee refused to cooperate with investigators and was, quote, directly involved in the development process, unquote, of the infamous Shadow app, the greatest name ever for an election app.
Right?
Yeah. What was it? What was the company that made it? They were like the ABC company or something. Another like weird name, Alphabet. Well, that's Google, but
but I mean,
some weird name like that. The Shadow app ahead of the 2020 Iowa caucuses. That's the conclusion of the former U.S. attorney leading the investigation into what went wrong during the first in-the-nation caucuses, as related to the Iowa State Democratic Party in a closed session meeting last week, according to a transcript of the meeting obtained by The Intercept. Quote, the DNC was directly involved in the development process, unquote, Nicholas Kleinefeld, a former federal attorney appointed by President Barack Obama, told the Iowa Democratic Party State Steering Committee in the December 12th meeting about the findings of an investigation he led alongside former Iowa Attorney General Bonnie Campbell. Kleinfeld's revelation about the committee's involvement counters the DNC's claim it made immediately after the Iowa caucuses. Back then, the DNC claimed it had, quote, absolutely no involvement, unquote, which we knew was bullshit at the time, in the development or coding of the Shadow app, which was supposed to record and report caucus results. When 3rd District State Party member Kim Callahan asked investigators to expand on the DNC involvement, they failed to elaborate, simply confirming that the DNC wouldn't cooperate with its investigation. Without the DNC's cooperation in the probe, investigators were hamstrung. There seemed to be a great deal of culpability by the DNC, Jim Button says. A 3rd District Iowa State Party member said to Kleinfeld in the meeting, there doesn't seem to be a lot of cooperation from the DNC from what you're saying. How can we hope to have a better outcome next time around? Because the actor we can't control is the DNC. In the closed session state party meeting, 3rd District State Party member Gabriel De La Cerda asked the attorneys leading the investigation if it was correct that the state party and Shadow app had the correct results on caucus night for the delegates won, 26.2% for Pete Buttigieg and 26.1% for Bernie Sanders, and could have reported if it not for the DNC's demand not to. Part of the delay was related to the party's promise to, for the first time, release popular vote totals, which proved more difficult than tabulating delegates. Which, was part of the whole fucking boondoggle at the for all the people that were watching the Iowa caucus in the moment, we could see it was being fucking rigged.
No,
just nothing matched up, and we weren't there on the ground. People that were actually there, their actual accounts are like, dude, we saw majority people coming out for Bernie, and then all of a sudden you see shit being called for Pete.
No, and also you have situations where they're calling delegates with random games like pulling a card, coin flips,
cards that pulling a card that not so random. They purposely rigged the card pool too. You can see video of that.
And didn't we in this bill send some $700 million to Venezuela to try to help them with democratic elections? I can't remember the exact. I think that was the amount, but I'd have to check again. But it's just, and we can't even get our own elections right.
Right. Exactly.
We're still running electoral college. We have coin tosses to decide delegates.
I mean, do you remember everybody was making jokes about it? It's like we go into other countries and cool them about their elections, but we coin toss delegates. What kind of if we saw any other country doing that, cool them instantly.
Yeah, exactly. And we have obviously we do it to democratic elections like in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't care if they're legit or not.
If they don't give us the right outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Legal votes.
Well, then it's not a legitimate election. See, it's just like Donald Trump. If the election doesn't give him the right outcome, it's a fraudulent election.
Exactly.
Even if there are perhaps instances of fraud that are negligible, like people voting for their dead relatives and so on, which are being disputed in court. But
and that's not going to make
to think that's going to win you the election is you got to be out of your mind,
right?
Or even get you close.
And ironically, is all the cases I've heard of that so far are people voting for Trump and using their dead relatives to vote for Trump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some of the first big cases we saw of fraud were coming from people who voted Republican. They voted for Trump and then used dead relatives' ballots to vote for Trump again.
Yeah, smarmy bastards. They're the only people with enough energy to do something stupid.
Yeah, right.
Like
Nobody else cares about voting now.
Nobody else gives a fuck. Exactly.
Blaine. The fucking
the demon rats, the Democratic Party.
Right.
The migrants.
The demon rats.
The demon rats.
Jesus. They smell like sulfur.
They smell like sulfur, the demon rats.
Have you seen the flies on Obama? They die when they touch his skin.
They're pedophiles, demon rats. They're eating babies. God, New World Order.
Can we skip down to where it says the DNC mandated? Just a couple paragraphs down. I'll just read this little last piece, and then I'll just kind of conclude here. The DNC mandated several-day delay in reporting results led Buttigieg to infamously declare victory without any actual results release, with the Sanders campaign claiming its internal results showed it had won the popular vote. And yeah, if you go back, like their own people at all these different places in the Sanders campaign recorded what happened. They blew Pete out of the fucking water.
Oh, yeah.
The mainstream media elevated the former South Bend, Indiana mayor's victory narrative, boosting him in the polls for the New Hampshire primary set 8 days after the Iowa caucuses, which was key to kneecapping Bernie and then later on coming behind and supporting Biden to finally finish him off.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Really quick. Yeah, you just got to think, for those who remember, he had days of news cycles of being able to say, "Oh, I won. Yes, I, Pete Buttigieg, have won." He was able to. And that, as much as you want to say, doesn't. But having days of news cycles to declare yourself the winner with no pushback, because the mainstream media obviously is in support of you snuffing Bernie. That has an impact on what goes on with the rest of the fucking elections.
Yes.
And and
on purpose, because Pete is just a pawn, and the reality is the DNC, and skipping that paragraph there, you see there, it says, the DNC's meddling, which included a last-minute demand that developers of the Shadow app create a special software that would allow the DNC real-time access to the raw numbers before they went public. Like, Are you fucking kidding me? That is as coordinated as it gets. They're like, hey, can we use your app that does the election results? And we get to basically just control it and decide the results.
Yeah, before you put out the numbers, we get to see them and touch them first.
Yeah, so as shitty as Pete is, and of course he's just a play-in in this, and the DNC, they're also just a play-in in this. They all just are different wings and of the fucking corporate state. The whole thing was rigged against Bernie from the start, and they had a full-on plan. They knew what the fuck they were doing. They did it in 2016, and they did it this time, and they knew he was just going to kowtow and do nothing, and we were just going to lose a lot of momentum. They were confident with just fucking screwing us.
Yeah, and whatever lefty runs in 2024, they're going to do the same thing to them.
I say,
unless we build a working class movement. But
so if you look at the DNC's process for how they run these primaries, the idea that they're running these primaries alone is very concerning, at least. So I'd say forget them. Like, why do we bother with this garbage process? We choose another party.
Like you guys were saying earlier, if we saw this in another country, we'd be like, oh, that place is corrupt. They should get rid of that kind of political system.
Exactly.
Like, the DNC's, it's too far gone. It's fucking broke. It doesn't work. They just serve the neoliberal class. We gotta fucking build working class local movements, and that's the only thing that's gonna work. And we're gonna have to put our bodies on the line.
And if you are still trying to run as a Democrat, I'd suggest you openly run against the DNC.
Yes.
Because I'd say you have a better chance at winning.
And do direct action stuff. Something we we don't have in the show, but was today, was at 6 p.m. Eastern, was the March on Bezos. They marched on his luxury apartment in New York, I think, out in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to continue to do that, I think, like once or twice a month. So, yeah, you see these, and then we're going to need a lot more of that kind of stuff, and we're going to need to build larger stuff, and it's just going to depend how the pandemic goes and how fed up people get. Yeah, I don't know. I can't predict stuff, but I guess we can just keep talking about it and try to foment the.
Yeah, and then really quick, while we're on the topic of local organizing, can I go ahead and link this to Carlos to pull up on the screen?
Yes.
Go ahead and look at links really quick and pull that up. For those who are in the Oxnard scene, right here we have it pulled up right now. This Saturday, December 26th at Seabridge, Oxnard Revolutionary Student News. They're going to be doing a reading of literature at Seabridge at the little amphitheater thing right there on the harbor at 3 p.m. this Saturday, December 26th. If you're here in the city of Oxnard or you live in Ventura or whatever, come on down. Seriously, go fuck with them. Go support. Start building that community support. And yeah, listen to what they have to say. Oxnard, the Revolutionary Student Network, or the Revolutionary Student News, they're super awesome. Oxnard Study, they're super awesome. And Oxnard's whole movement is really awesome. We got to make sure we support our city because they want to do what's best for us.
Yeah, we have there's a bunch of communities, but just the dynamics of our community, we have a real chance to actually build something that's truly transformative.
Yeah, and then,
we're a military community. There's a large police presence, but there's also, large immigrant presence, large radical presence, farm workers,
truck drivers. Yeah, we have
an interesting spot.
Yeah. And also, really quick, Carlos, can you just turn the webcams off for a couple of seconds so people can get the details down of where it's going to be at? Just for a couple of seconds so they can see everything.
I think in the future too, and this is just more thoughts before the new year too, we want to do more stuff that we can integrate more direct action through our show, because I think that's something that should be a priority for us.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can go ahead and cut them back on now.
We definitely have. We always shout out stuff like this.
Of course, yeah. But for those who live in Oxnard, really quick, Seabridge this Saturday, December 26th, 3 p.m. at Seabridge. Be there. They're going to be reading literature, and it's going to be super cool. Make sure you guys are there. So, yeah, and then you can go ahead and continue on. I just wanted to bring that up while we're on the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can move to the video we have here, and we could just start it from the beginning. This is from Gray Zone, and it's Max Blumenthal, in correspondence with Aaron Mate. They both have great work. So does Ben Norton. They all have pretty good work. They're talking about just kind of what we were talking about before with, the Post and also the Intercept, just being in a lot of ways just outlets for the fucking State Department and, the elites, because they just parrot these stupid fucking narratives, whether it be Venezuela shit from most of the mainstream media, or where both in the mainstream media and in the case of the Intercept now and before too, or outlets like TYT, just reparroting fucking Russiagate narratives. The idea that somehow Russia is, a danger and that they're the threat, rather than, what our own government and what our own the corporations here are doing to our own people. So they talk about this, and I think it's a really interesting discussion.
I just wanted to transition, because me and Aaron were talking about transitioning to the Russia hysteria and also the Navalny story. And I wanted to do it by relating an incident, something I experienced here. There was a Nicolas Maduro held a press conference.
Keep in mind he's in Caracas, Venezuela.
And me and Anya and Zoe Pepper from People's Dispatch and a few other journalists who had come here to cover the elections. We, Elijah Magnier, we got who's a friend of the show and friend of the Gray Zone. We got in. Zoe got to ask a question about a flight of delegates which was held up by the Colombian government. They were not giving it overflight rights to go to Mexico, and so they had a really grueling experience. This is something the Colombian government always does to Venezuelan flights. And I got to talk to some of the journalists, not out of my own will, who are part of the hack pack here, who are like the mainstream corporate US journalists who get to run around here doing whatever they want, basically constantly indicting the government as like the worst Hitlerian, authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship in Latin American history, with Colombia just a few hundred miles away. And one of them just came up and started talking to us because we're standing in the corner. They have their little hack pack. They all know each other. They all hang out together. They have their own little social world, their social bubble that insulates them from reality. And this guy came up to us, guy from Washington, D.C. He said, "Hey, so you're new in town?" Like, it's like a pickup line in like a cheesy bar, like at the happy hour or something at Studebaker's. And he starts talking, asking probing questions and stuff. And I said, I don't want to like name him or his publication just because it was like semi off the record, I guess. But I was just like, everything that you guys write, it just reads like a press release for the CIA or State Department. Why is that? And his voice started cracking. And I said, and he said, I think that's unfair. And I said, really, how is it unfair? When have you? No, actually, he said, I agree with a lot of what the State Department says. That was his response to me in a cracking voice. And I said, I just kept pushing. And I said, why don't you ever report on the impact of sanctions on civilians in Venezuela? Like, why don't you report on what the U.S. is doing here? All you do is run around saying everybody's corrupt, everything is mismanagement. And meanwhile, the U.S. is like holding this medieval siege, sanctioning even the CLAP program, which provides people with food. And he says to me, well, it's just really hard to do because you just don't know where the effects are and whether sanctions are at fault, which was just preposterous. I mean, preposterous. And then he said, what it really is mismanagement.
It's that same fluff language, like in the Washington
Really, is that why oil output is decreasing? It isn't that the U.S. is literally seizing ships, and preventing fuel from coming in. And he's like, well, I covered the oil industry for years, and they can't fix anything. They don't, and he's just rattling off the kind of colonial narrative. And, then I watched the press conference take place, and these reporters, they pop up like one after another, like cuckoo clock, like neocon cuckoo clocks in Espanol, hammering Maduro. Do you have FARC agents in the country? Sir, are you really a socialist if you're doing the anti-blockade law? Just any way they could indict him. And then, Maduro obviously revels in this. And then he would go off for like a half hour for each question, just like smashing each question into the ground over and over, and then burying a new grave for the question, and then like hydrofracking the question into the molten core of the earth until he was done destroying the narrative, because he's on national TV. But it was just so obvious. I mean, CNN Espanol was there, all the wires were there, all your favorite corporate outlets were there, and it was just so obvious what they were, which is a bunch of mercenaries who are basically, they see themselves as these kind of agents of the American bipartisan foreign policy establishment who are here to carry out its wishes. And they get access in many cases that like a U.S. intelligence operative could not get. That's why so many intelligence operatives go under journalistic cover. You can't just have some American guy looking like Jack Ryan walking around Petare or some barrio asking people questions about where did the money go for this community program that Chavistas are paying for? Like, did it disappear? So you have a reporter and then they flash their press pass. It's legitimate. And this isn't just unique to Venezuela. It's something we just saw take place on a really ridiculous level in Russia with Clarissa Ward from CNN, who we've reported on, supposedly going to the door of an FSB master assassin who happened to be living in like this like rancid apartment in the outskirts of Moscow. I mean, they don't treat their master assassins very well there. He's an FSB agent who supposedly poisoned Navalny, and she went to his door. I wish you could play the video, but she starts speaking to him in like crappy Russian. Not that my Russian is good. And then it's so funny. Then she breaks back into her English, but it was like Katie's Russian accent, her English. Like she suddenly was speaking English with a Russian accent. And, you know, then she gets out of the country and everyone's patting her on the back. And it was part of a coordinated operation with Bellingcat, who Aaron had talked about before, and we'll talk about now. These are, I just don't see these as journalists. Right now, there's an active campaign, very aggressive campaign to box Biden in to a hardcore anti-Russian position. It won't be hard to do with the kind of fanatics around him, like Michael Carpenter, who will be like his assistant secretary of state for Eastern Europe and is like in with Ukrainian nationalists. It won't be hard to do with Biden's pre-existing positions, but they want to assure a continuum between the Russia hysteria of Trump, starting with, you know, Russiagate and the January 2017 ODNI report, going to today, where you have the Russia hack that's completely unproven, with the ODNI just basically saying it happened, FireEye was hacked, and this whole industry has been penetrated. The Intercept has a story out today sourcing like Microsoft threat intelligence on Austin City infrastructure being penetrated by the FSB, and they made up some new name like Crazy Bear or something, Gummy Bear, the FSB operatives. And then you got the Bellingcat CNN investigation on Navalny. It's just like this coordinated avalanche of anti-Russian stories. And Biden finally responded and said, like, or somebody, like whoever is like in the hamster wheel of his brain, like pumping out statements, said, you know, we will punish those responsible. So what we're witnessing right now is journalism being used as essentially a weapon of the American intelligence apparatus on so many different levels in order to create a scenario in countries where it seeks regime change, where the U.S. government and the U.S. public feel compelled to do something and to continue escalating against these governments.
I do, and it's been surreal to witness. I'm going to make fun of myself a little bit because I think it's so funny. After the Mueller report failed, after all that, I wrote this tweet sort of expressing some optimism towards a new resistance. Basically, after the Mueller report, I wrote, with Mueller done, we are in a new era where the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory is no longer sustainable and thus no longer able to define the resistance. That's a crushing defeat for those who peddled it. But for the rest of us, it's a victory. We can now have a real opposition. So I wrote that in March 2019. How naive and stupid was that? Thinking that any of this Russia madness would cease. It's only really intensified. And now this is the latest manifestation. And it's crazy to see, you know, journalists foaming at the mouth for some sort of retaliatory action against Russia, even though, of course, no one says with any confidence and can't say with any confidence that Russia even carried out this cyber hack. I mean, personally, if it turns out to be Russia, I wouldn't actually be surprised. I mean, this is the kind of cyber espionage that states do. When we do it, we openly brag about it. You know, when we destroy centrifuges in Iran, or when we place malware inside of the Russian energy grid. There was a big New York Times story about that about a year ago, about how we had planted all this malware in there and can set it off if we wanted to. We could knock out power to ordinary Russians if we wanted to. So I wouldn't be surprised if Russia has done this, but it's so crazy. No matter how many times intelligence deceptions have been exposed, whether it's on Russiagate or before that with Iraq, it's just people just reflexively parrot the claim. And in the case of Bellingcat and their role.
Yeah, and I think they both put it perfectly. The journalists are just another outlet of the fucking State Department.
And that last part was so true.
Yes, of course.
The Like we always like, oh, they've tried to hack our elections. They try to hack us, the integrity.
Meanwhile, we brag about doing that to other countries.
And when we do it, we actively affect innocent civilians in their countries.
Right. People's electricity. That's what we're threatening for Russia. Well, meanwhile, their quote threat. I mean, no one's threatened by Russia hacking the Pentagon.
They put memes on they put memes on Facebook, and that's somehow worse than anything we've ever done ever.
Jeez. Yeah, we only basically destroyed their country's economy for the last fucking 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like I said, I'm kind of really disappointed in Russia, to be honest.
Do better.
Do better.
Take us out.
Please.
I can learn Russian, I think.
No. When Max was like, my Russian's not good, it's like, wow, to even have Russian is...
Yeah, right? The Cyrillic alphabet.
I feel so bad that my grandfather didn't want to learn Russian to fit in here.
That's so sad, that thing. Like,
his parents wanted to teach him, but... so I don't know Russian.
You gotta. It might have been a little scary, you know.
Maybe I'll go pick it up again.
They have Red Scare Hollywood days, Carlos. You got to think about that. They didn't want to get ousted.
It was a different time. That was back in like the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, integration was key to survival for a lot of people coming over. Integration, by that I mean forced integration that was detrimental to their culture and shit. So, not good. Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to say before we get on out of here?
No. I guess that's if nobody else has anything to say, I'll kind of do the outro that we do.
Yeah, I'll just have like an aside before I do the last video.
Yeah. I'll So this was number 24. This was episode 24 of the Spoop Podcast. We want to thank you guys for joining. I think we peaked at like 15 or 16 people watching. That's super awesome.
It was like consistent 11 for a long time.
Yeah,
we're the 24th day of December.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, hey.
24.
Yeah, next time we speak to you, Christmas will have passed. So
yeah, Merry Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you guys
care about those things.
Yeah, if you care about
Hanukkah, whatever
Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, anything.
Or just have a good week, solidarity to you. All that. You know.
Of course. Yeah.
Happy season.
Yeah.
War on Christmas. We can't say the word Christmas.
War on Christmas. The Democrats want to take Christmas away.
I hope everyone
Christmas wars.
I hope everyone at least tries to reach out to and talk to someone this holiday season, because I mean, we all feel the seasonal depression, even if like it doesn't get you down as much as someone else. Like
especially
we all need connection.
Yeah, people you haven't talked to for a while, and reach out to them.
Yeah, just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean we can't at least connect on the psychological level.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you to every single person who joined at any point and watched, who subscribed. We got 2 Prime subs from Hugly and Hochi, Josh and Jack, 2 friends of the show, and 2 friends outside of the show. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Anybody else who wants to share the love, go ahead and drop a Prime sub next time you see us, because we're about to end the show now. But thank you guys so much for joining. We'll be back Sunday. We're here every single Wednesday and Sunday at 10:30. You can keep up to date with us on our Twitter, our Instagram, and at our YouTube, where we post our archives. It's all just type in Spoop Podcast anywhere and you'll find us. Yeah, make sure you guys drop a follow. Make sure you guys subscribe if you want. We really appreciate any type of support, or even just coming in. And anybody who's watching, we welcome chat interaction. We're always down to talk to you guys. Never feel nervous to talk or anything. If we don't get to you literally immediately, we'll give us a couple of seconds. Maybe we see your message, but we're churning on something. We like to talk to you guys, and it's very interesting.
It helps steer the show too. It's fun.
Exactly. Disagree or agree with us. We've had shows where we have everything planned out, and then we have a conversation with a chatter, and it changes how the show goes for the better most times. It's always something interesting to do. So yeah, we really want more chat interaction with you guys. I get it's nice to sit back and lurk, but yeah, we're always welcome to questions.
It helps to make us not feel like we're in as much of a bubble as we are.
Yeah. And also, yeah, we want to strengthen and grow this community. So talking to you guys is part of that. Getting to know you guys, the regulars, those who come in, the guys like to poke fun and troll and whatnot. We had the homie.
We need them all.
Yeah, we need them all.
We need all of you.
You're all
it's
important.
It's a collective effort. Bother us, talk shit, do anything.
We love you too,
Just
Bio.
show something.
Because then I don't have to talk to you. Yeah, you're lucky you don't have to talk to me because I'd roast your ass in front of everybody. But yeah, okay. That's the end of the show, everybody. That's number 24. We'll be back on Sunday. Jacan just gave us some biddies. That was cute. We love you so much. As I say at the end of every single show, workers of the world unite. Also, change starts in your locality. You really, for those who live in Oxnard, this Saturday at the Seabridge, for everybody who lives in Oxnard, you know what Seabridge is. Head to Seabridge. Oxnard Revolutionary Student News is going to be reading some literature at the amphitheater, the little thing here next to the harbor, next to the coffee bean. Be there and listen to what these guys have to say. They're all super badass. And then if you want to keep up to date with them, it's at Oxnard_RSN, I believe. Yeah, I posted it on my Instagram, like live, or like my Instagram little story thing for those who follow me.
Links after.
Yeah, and we'll obviously have it in the links in our YouTube that will be uploaded tomorrow. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will be back here on Sunday. Check out this really cool video that Jake's going to talk about before we go.
Yeah, and I'm really starting to get used to our outro. I'm digging your consistent workers of the world unite. It's the perfect slogan.
I think so as well.
It's all perfect, yeah. So this outro video I have for you guys, and I was actually talking to other friend of the show, Caesar, about it for a little bit, because in the promo video I did for it, I think he's like 20 in this speech, and Caesar's like, oh, I read about him or saw a video about him. He's like, and I saw he was killed at 21. I'm like, yeah, it's so crazy. Like, not just how much he got done, but just how much of a voice he was and how young he was killed by the Chicago police. And I kind of talked about this too. Like, man, the Chicago police in general are just so brutal. Like, going back to even the Haymarket bombings, but especially yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say, which we've talked about on the show before.
Yes, and their blatant attacks against black radicals and the Black Panther Party. Keep in mind, Fred Hampton, who's going to speak here, in the Black Panther Party, started a free lunch program that was one of the first universal free lunch programs to kids.
And also something to keep in mind about the Black Panther Party. The only time the NRA has ever supported gun control legislation was when the Black Panthers were open carrying during all the protests. So yeah, Black Panthers are fucking badass, man.
Yeah, and as much as they paint the Black Panthers as some radical, in American fucking narrative, they're painted as some terrorist group basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is they did free food programs, they extended healthcare to people, they helped people get housing, they organized workplaces. As you'll hear with Fred too, they understood the language of the class war, etc. And it's just amazing, the Black Panthers too. On one hand, in the United States, you have the Ku Klux Klan, which is just fucking whites using their racial supremacy to terrorize black people in this country. And there's no fucking black Taliban or black Ku Klux Klan.
No, yeah, exactly.
All that terror came beautiful fucking jazz music and all kinds of art and poetry. And in the case of the Black Panthers, real radical socialists, truly loving politics. And what did they get for it? They get assassinated. But nevertheless, they're fucking.
Of course. And then I want to.
Jacan's getting the CIA award for excellence in journalism.
Yeah,
right
you just cut
out.
No, yeah, but we got what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we got the gist.
Yeah,
don't kill me soon.
Yeah, and then really quick, I want to read a quote from Fred Hampton.
Please. After that, just play the video.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to read this quote, and then we're going to get right out of your hair. Fred Hampton's a very important and awesome figure. And he said, you can jail the revolutionaries, but you can't jail the revolution. And that's just beautiful. Marinate on that and enjoy this little speech. We'll be back on Sunday. Later.
What makes them mad about it? What makes them mad about it is that they have black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descents. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions where all of us people are getting together and have an international proletarian revolution. Right on. Right on. And that's saying all power to the people. Right on. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back because this is lower, this is upper. This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor. This is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. And you've heard the testimony of pigs here. You got pigs of all colors, you know that. You got pigs that are white, you got pigs that are black, you even got pigs that are black and white. Propagating the same type of madness that this buffoon Hanrahan would be propagating if he were here himself. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and start into dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack other than Hanrahan, other than Davy, and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon. If you make the right decision, then the oppressed people of the world can get complete satisfaction. I know you return a verdict of not guilty.